Assalamu Alaikum wa Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuh. Today we delve into one of the pivotal moments in the early history of Islam, the machinations of the Quraysh against the Muslim emigrants who sought refuge in Abyssinia, Ethiopia. This event is a testament to the resilience of the early Muslim community and the divine protection they received in the face of relentless opposition. Quraysh's fear and envy. As the small community of Muslims found a safe haven in Abyssinia, under the just rule of King Ashamah, the Quraysh became increasingly agitated. They could not bear the thought of their fellow tribesmen finding security and freedom of worship outside their oppressive reach. Driven by envy and a burning desire to crush the new faith, the Quraysh devised a plan to bring the emigrants back to Makkah, where they could resume their persecution. Two of the staunchest opponents of Islam, Amr bin al-As and Abdullah bin Abi Rabi'a, both of whom had not yet embraced Islam, were chosen as envoys. Armed with valuable gifts intended to sway the king and his court, they set out for Abyssinia with the goal of convincing the king to extradite the Muslims back to Makkah. The envoys appealed to the king. Upon their arrival, the envoys wasted no time in presenting their case to King Ashamah. They claimed that the Muslims had abandoned the religion of their forefathers and were now spreading a faith that was foreign not only to their people, but also to the king's own Christian beliefs. They argued that the Muslims should be expelled and returned to the Quraysh, where they could be dealt with. However, the king, known for his justice and fairness, was not swayed by their gifts or their words. Instead, he summoned the Muslim refugees to his court and asked them to explain their beliefs and the teachings of their religion. Ja'far bin Abi Talib's powerful testimony. The Muslims, though anxious, decided to stand firm and speak the truth, no matter the consequences. Ja'far bin Abi Talib, the cousin of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, rose to the occasion and addressed the king with eloquence and sincerity. His words were a moving testimony to the transformative power of Islam. He said, "O king, we were a people plunged into ignorance and barbarism. We worshipped idols, lived in unchastity, ate the flesh of dead animals, and spoke abominations. We disregarded every feeling of humanity and knew no law but that of the strong. When Allah raised among us a man, whose birth, truthfulness, honesty, and purity were well known to us, he called us to the worship of Allah alone and taught us to speak the truth, to be faithful to our trusts, to be merciful, and to respect the rights of our neighbors. He forbade us from speaking evil of women, devouring the property of orphans, and from every kind of vice. He taught us to pray, to give in charity, and to fast. Because of this, our people have turned against us, persecuted us, and sought to make us return to the worship of idols. We fled to your country, seeking your protection, and we hope that you will shelter us from their oppression." The impact of Ja'far's words. Ja'far's heartfelt speech moved the king deeply. He then asked Ja'far to recite some of the words of Allah. Ja'far chose to recite verses from Surah Maryam, chapter 19, which recount the story of the birth of Jesus, peace be upon him, and his mother Mary. As the verses were recited, the king and his bishops were overcome with emotion, and tears flowed down their cheeks. In response, the king acknowledged the divine origin of the words and declared, "It seems as if these words and those which were revealed to Jesus are rays of light that have radiated from the same source." Turning to the crestfallen envoys, he said, "I cannot give you back these refugees. They are free to live and worship in my realm as they please." The envoys' second attempt. Refusing to give up, the Quraysh envoys returned the next day with a new accusation. They claimed that the Muslims blasphemed against Jesus, peace be upon him. The Muslims were once again summoned before the king, and he asked them to clarify their beliefs regarding Jesus. Ja'far responded with confidence, stating, "We speak of Jesus as we have been taught by our prophet, peace be upon him, that he is the servant of Allah, his messenger, his spirit, and his word which he bestowed upon the pure Virgin Mary." The king, recognizing the truth in these words, declared, "Even so do we believe. Blessed be you, and blessed be your master." He then turned to the angry envoys and his bishops, saying, "You may fret and fume as you like, but Jesus is nothing more than what Ja'far has said about him." With this, he assured the Muslims of his protection and returned the gifts brought by the Quraysh, sending the envoys away empty-handed. The aftermath. The failure of the Quraysh's plot was a significant setback for them. They realized that their influence and power could not extend beyond Makkah, and that the Muslims had found a safe haven under the protection of a just and powerful king. Frustrated by their inability to bring the Muslims back, the Quraysh began to entertain darker thoughts of silencing the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, once and for all. Abu Talib's dilemma. Realizing that their attempts to suppress Islam through diplomatic channels had failed, the Quraysh turned their attention back to Makkah. They approached Abu Talib, the Prophet's uncle, for a second time, pressuring him to stop his nephew from spreading his message. They threatened that if he did not intervene, they would take matters into their own hands, and the consequences would be severe. Abu Talib, caught between his love for his nephew and the fear of alienating his tribe, called the Prophet, peace be upon him, and relayed the Quraysh's message. He urged him to spare them both from further conflict. The Prophet, peace be upon him, believing that his uncle might no longer support him, responded with unwavering resolve. "O my uncle, by Allah, if they put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left on condition that I abandon this course, until Allah has made me victorious, or I perish therein, I would not abandon it." As the Prophet, peace be upon him, turned to leave, Abu Talib called him back, moved by his determination. He reassured him, saying, "Go and preach what you please, for by Allah I will never forsake you."